told you earlier in tonight's show, all three remaining casino proposals, 2 in Queens and 1 in the Bronx, were recommended for approval today by the Gaming Facility Location Board. The board cited the economic benefits of the casino projects. The state's Gaming Commission is now expected to issue the final licenses by December 31st. And here to break down what this decision means and much more is my next guest. Vicki Been is the chair of the Gaming Facility Location Board and the former deputy mayor of Housing and Economic Development under Mayor Bill de Blasio. Welcome back to the program. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
So we started out with many casino proposals. Eventually we were down to 3 and 3 licenses. So was this decision maybe a little easier and less suspenseful than it could otherwise have been? Was this sort of a no-brainer?
Well, I think it was definitely easier, but that said, we paid really close attention to every single thing that was promised by those 3. So we really did have a hard choice to decide whether should it be 2, should it be 3, should it be 1. So it was easier, but it wasn't easy.
Yeah, and of course with 3, I mean, I think one of the primary concerns here is that these 3 casinos, especially given the fact that they're in relatively close proximity, could cannibalize each other, right? I mean, I guess the question is there, a finite number of gamblers? Are there only so many gamblers to go around, and therefore they could eat into each other's business? Or is that not the way that the gambling market is expected to work?
So we were very concerned about that, but our consultants did a lot of work looking at modeling how much demand is there, will the demand go this place or that place, right? Bally's is likely to bring people from Westchester, Queens is likely to bring people from Long Island. The airports obviously are important. So what they looked at is what's the total, assuming that if you give 3, it's going to take some from one to another. But the analysis is that this is one of the largest markets really in the world, certainly in the United States, and there's plenty of market there to meet the supply.
Right. I mean, another thing we often hear is that with casino projects, the revenues often fall short of what the casino companies themselves project. So, I mean, what does it mean for the state if these casinos aren't as successful as they hope to be or as they're advertising themselves to be?
So our projections are based upon our consultants' analysis, not on the applicants' analysis. The applicants are, they're optimistic, but we ask our consultants, be conservative. We want to be surprised on the upside, not on the downside, right? So we're pretty confident that they're conservative estimates. And obviously, if they don't meet them, we will see less tax revenue. But we kicked the tires pretty hard with the consultants, and they believe this is an unusually, wealthy and many people in the area, and that there's plenty of a market.
Talk about some of the downside. We'll talk about the benefits in a minute, I promise, but talk about the downsides that the board had to consider because, obviously there are community concerns, whether it's traffic or disruptions or neighborhood character, and then of course, problem gambling. Mm-hmm. And, I've heard you talk about the fact that with this plan, there's more active intervention with problem gambling, potentially. Talk about that a little bit.
So we were concerned about the answers that we were getting on how are you going to address problem gambling. The first answers that came in were really, we post signs about help is available here. And we asked, how much are you actually intervening and helping, doing a warm handoff, so that somebody who's identified themselves or that you've identified as a problem gambler, you actually stay on the line, stay with them until they get help, which is what happens in Europe, what other states, New Jersey is considering having a more interventionist approach. So we asked the applicants to really focus on doing more in that area.
Right. So we're talking about billions and billions of dollars in tax revenue and these licensing fees up front. Mm-hmm. We'll talk about how much money we're talking about and where this revenue is going to be going.
So right off the bat, there's $500 million for each one of the licenses, so a total of $1.5 billion. That all goes to the MTA. So new subway stations, new ADA accessible upgrades, those kinds of things. So that's up front. Over the 10-year period that we're talking about, 2026 to 2033, we expect to see about $7 billion in tax revenue from the gaming, right? That's not the revenue from the gaming, that's actual tax revenue into the state and the city. We also expect, and the counties, we also expect to see about $5.9 billion in additional property taxes, income taxes, et cetera, from the kinds of jobs that are being created and that kind of thing.
And we focus so much on the casino aspect of it, but there's a lot more, right? I mean, there's hotels, there's concert venues, there's restaurants. These are going to be sort of full service complexes beyond just the gambling.
Yes, they're really entertainment districts is one way to think about them. You can come see a show at the theater. You can go outside in Metropolitan Park, and there will be like a band shell type of thing where performances will be. You can go play golf at Bally. So it's a very wide range of activities that are available, all of which will be generating sales taxes and other taxes for the state and the city.
So this is not the last step. This now goes to the Gaming Commission. Mm-hmm. I mean, to what extent is this sort of a rubber stamp, or are they, examining the finance? Are they sort of starting from scratch and examining the finances of these different proposals? What happens from here?
They don't re-examine the criteria that we were asked to examine, but they do start afresh or start, from the ground up on the things that they were assigned to do. So, for example, character and fitness of the applicants and the people that make up those corporations or those entities. That is a matter for the Gaming Commission to decide, and they will do that from the ground up.
Right. There was this issue of money that's going to the Trump Organization, which I know has been a point of contention. $115 million to the Trump Organization because they formerly controlled the Ferry Point golf course. Did that come into play at all in the consideration of the board?
No, that's not something that we were. That was legal for us to consider, and so no.
Okay, so you talked about the money for the MTA. The rest of the tax revenue goes to the state. Is this just into the sort of the state's general fund, and is this something that's already been budgeted for on the state level, or is this sort of above and beyond what might generally be expected? Is this sort of a bonus from the state's perspective?
So by law, the money goes either to the MTA or to education, or some amount of the money goes into problem gambling services, right? So it's directed in those three ways according to a formula that the statute provides.
Right. One of a few of the proposals initially were in Manhattan, of course, and I think there was a school of thought that Manhattan was, sort of a logical location because you've already got the transit access and a lot of tourists. I mean, would that not have been one of the most natural location for one of these casinos, given that we ended up with 3 in the boroughs?
Well, certainly the idea was people would come, go to Broadway, go over to the casino, take advantage of Manhattan's incredible restaurants. All that said, there's lots to take advantage of in Queens, there's lots to take advantage of in Bally's, and obviously the communities in Manhattan were very, very concerned about the congestion in terms of traffic, the congestion in terms of the subway system. So, the community advisory committees were charged with trying to figure out what do the communities want, and they said pretty decisively the communities in Manhattan do not want a casino.
Yeah, well, the communities spoke. Well, very transformative projects that are now coming down the pike, assuming they get the approval of the Gaming Commission. And congratulations on getting through what I'm sure was a grueling process, and thank you for spending some time with us.
Thank you.